I thought that maybe we could do this precisely because we're all unreasonable people, and progress depends on our changing the world to fit us, not the other way around.
Post-release, Cynic is still a functioning band, still touring, still writing. But at some point, what you were working on became that Portal cassette. Now, I've heard different stories. One is that what ended up being the Portal tapes was actually meant to be the second Cynic album. And the other story that I heard was that Cynic had, for all intents and purposes, called it a day, but because you guys had been working together for so long, decided to stick together and that's how Portal came about.
Okay, so your second, the latter statement would be close. So
Okay.
we didn't get a good response overall. We had problems with so also when we went out on tour, there was a misprint on the Focus album, and the album got recalled. So the whole concept is when you release an album, it goes into the stores. Okay, this was back when we had record stores. Okay, the album goes into the stores. You play your tour, you play your sets and all that. Hopefully people go, wow, I like this, and they go to the store and buy the album. Well, there was a misprint. They recalled all the albums, so when we played, anyone that even liked us couldn't go buy the album.
Interesting.
It wasn't in the stores. It got a late release, so that kind of backfired on us. The Pestilence tour broke up midway. That kind of backfired on us. The Cannibal tour was, of course, great and all that, but we did have the mixed response, you know.
Yeah.
So by the time we got back, man, we were really beat up. You know, we had felt a little just down and had really hoped for more. We thought that we were doing something pretty cool and pretty new and that people would grab onto, and it just didn't happen. So we actually were going to break up.
Okay.
We were going to call it good. And so we said, you know what, we're still here. We're still playing together. Let's do something completely different. Let's go a completely different direction. Let's write something commercial. Let's put one solo per song. You know, let's have clean vocals, no heavy. And that was actually Portal. Now, Portal was to be a different band. A different release was never to be a Cynic release. And we had actually, Aruna Abrams had gotten in contact with us. She liked our stuff. She was a young musician. She was a few years younger than us. Incredibly talented player. And we listened to some of her stuff, and we were like, you know, this could probably work to have a mix, a gal singer in here. She was a great keyboardist. And we said, why don't you fly down and spend a week with us, and let's jam and see if something happens. And she did, and it's been a long time. She either stayed or she went back for a little bit, and then she moved down there, and we did the Portal songs. Now, we actually were trying to get signed, and we thought we were done with Cynic and all that, and Atlantic Records actually took interest in us, and we had an A&R rep that was interested and was actually looking into possibly giving us a deal with those tunes. But in the process, we couldn't get out of the Roadrunner contract because they signed us for a 7-album deal. And they're like, no, you're screwed. You can just wait 7 years and then you can work with them, but we're not releasing you from the contract, or you can continue on. So at that point, we were just so.
Is this 7 years from the initial demo or from the Focus album?
So the way the contract works is a record company will sign you. They'll never sign you for one deal because they're hoping you're going to get better, and they're going to put the investment in the first one and hopefully get some hype. Now the second one's going to do better and better and better, and they're going to. So as a band, you want to sign for as little albums as possible.
Right.
As a record company, you want to sign them for as many as possible because you're containing the band. So the concept was once we release the first album, technically you have a year to release a second, a year to release a third. So it's so it was another 6 years, I guess, that we would have had to wait in theory. And at that time, we were already, 93, we came back from the tour. I was probably 24, 25 at the time, and we weren't making any money and surviving, and it was very hard. We were on our own, or at least I was. I didn't have any real support. So we tried to do a completely different direction. That's where Portal songs came from. We were getting shopped by Atlantic. Things were looking good. We couldn't get released from Roadrunner. Atlantic lost interest. Everything just went down the tubes, and then that's when we disbanded.
Okay.
That's what that's the real story, because it was never meant to be Cynic. It was a completely different direction.
Okay, so my introduction to the Portal material, I'd never heard of Portal.
Correct.
I
never
had
released it until
yeah. And so this is why I'm fascinated by this, because I had the original Focus version, which I found used. And so when you told me that that album was recalled, immediately I realized why it was so hard to find that album, because it was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when Focus was re-released in 2004, I guess.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't remember how long it took and the exact dates, but they had to bring it in and repress it.
Yeah. Some of the Portal material was included onto the re-release.
No. Okay, so you said 2004. I'm talking like 94.
Right.
So the album was supposed to be released when we toured.
Right.
In 93 or 94. It didn't get released until a few months after that. So
Okay.
So yeah, no, it wasn't that long. So then, like 10 years later, they re-released Focus,
Right.
and that's when they added the other songs to it. And
That's
that was
when-
just a bonus because we had the material. We never released it. We never did anything with it, and it was just an album sitting there for 10 years almost.
Yeah. Were you playing gigs as Portal? Were you?
Never.
Okay.
Not once.
So it was just those recordings.
It was just those
Interesting.
recordings, and we did it. We tried to shop it, and it just didn't happen. And like I said, that's when we disbanded. And actually, that's when Paul and Sean ended up going to L.A. Malone went back home to Tampa, and then I stayed in Miami for couple more years. And that's I had just had my daughter, and ended up a few years after that moving to Portland, and it just went from there into
Okay.
to the ending actually.
Yeah.
Walking away now, taking your time, dreaming in circles, finding your place now.
why I'm fascinated by the Portal stuff is because, much like Focus, there's really nothing at that time. I mean, it's not commercial the way, if you're thinking 1995, what was on the radio in 1995?
Yeah.
It was nothing like that.
Yeah.
And even now, with, you know, certain niche genres having an audience, you know, it's very hard to say that Portal would sell to any particular thing. But again, you can pick out certain bands that were doing kind of a doomy, proggy, melodic thing. It's not necessarily similar to Portal, but there's an overlap. Like Third and the Mortal were doing something like that with female vocals.
Okay.
Maudlin the Well, which is this band from Boston, which was a very out there proggy band.
Okay.
And I think that guy is more famous now because he was in KO Dot and something else that was Vara, which kind of are a little bit popular now. And again, it's not like there's a scene of this stuff. It's not like there's like these people who know each other. It's like one band in Norway and like one guy in Boston and, you know, one band in San Francisco, all doing kind of similar stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I'm just fascinated like how you guys arrived at that sound, that very kind of spacey, Pink Floyd-ish, you know, jazzy sound.
Well, I think that okay. So the way that I see it is, there's only every person when they write music has their own sound or their own style, and it's kind of hard to just completely change a genre and write, you know, go from what Cynic was doing on Focus and then write pop, you know, or whatever. And I mean, there are guys that I guess can do that, but they already have that pop ear. And I think that that was just our natural attempt at doing something commercial, something with some clean guitars, you know, something with one solo and a vocal. And we weren't really going, okay, we're going to go for this sound or anything like that. It's actually just the sound that evolved from us going, let's write something commercial. So yeah, how it flows over with those other bands, I think would be completely coincidental, and just happened to end up, you know, I guess overlapping in that sense. But we really weren't listening to pop. It was just we were just going, okay, because now we all play different music. We listen to jazz. We listen to all different styles of music. So, for example, when I wrote music at home, I would write whatever came out. So sometimes it would be groovy, sometimes it would be more commercial, like the Portal stuff, and then you had stuff that came out like Cynic. Well, that got offered to Cynic, the other stuff didn't. So those were just ideas that we had, and that was just still a natural, you know, release of what we would do if we were playing something, you know, more mellow, and a lot of those ideas were already there that we had, that we just never even offered to Cynic because it was just, you know, what came out. So yeah, it was just our attempt or our version of playing something that was, and it wasn't even directed at pop, it was being radio friendly. We thought if we could come up with something that was radio friendly and get a deal, then maybe we could survive off some of the music and actually get a deal that could be profitable.
I mean, that's what's the amazing thing about Portal to me, which is even in trying to, Cynic kind of came out of this death metal scene, this extreme metal scene, and was maybe, you know, throwing a lot of variables at an audience that wasn't ready for it. And in the same way, Portal, which is an outgrowth of some of the stuff that you're doing in Cynic, was throwing so many things. I mean, even with the female vocals and the melody and things like that, when you think of mainstream music and pop music, it's very easily digestible music. 3 minutes, 3 chords, you know, simplistic,
down your
repetition.
Throat
And Portal is so, I mean, it's psychedelic, but it's also jazzy, and it's also, you know, there's so many things going on at the same time. The only thing I can compare it to is Cynic, because Cynic had like
no
similar,
way. Jeez, we failed.
But in a good way. In a good way.
No, I mean, and the Portal tapes for me, it was very interesting. It was a real different approach, and I was fine with it because it was never to be Cynic. It just happened that it never got released, and they had the opportunity, and we ended up releasing it. But But yeah, I guess you can't change who you are, man.
Yeah.
You know, you can't change that. So that was just the mellower side of what we had to offer, and our approach at doing something radio sellable. But that's a very interesting perspective. I've never heard of it like that, and it's a very good perspective that you came up with. And it's funny, that's been another kind of a mixed response album there too. You know, it depends. I find a lot of the gals really like the Portal, and then, you know, of course, a lot of people that knew Cynic are like, you know, not as hip to it, I guess we'd say.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends, because I think in a lot of ways what Cynic is doing now is very similar to what Portal was doing then, more than that first Cynic album.
Yes. Yeah, and that's a whole nother story. That's basically, that also led to the separation of the band. So we had come back from the tour, and I'd say that Paul wanted to go more mellow. He wanted to lose the growling, and did want to kind of head, I wouldn't say as extreme as Portal, but wanted to head to a more, I don't even want to say radio friendly, but just kind of in the direction that they're going, in the direction that they have gone. To be honest, I listened to Traced in Air a couple times, and I really hadn't listened to anything else that they had really done. I just kind of separated myself from everything. But the direction that they wanted to go, I was like, that's not Cynic. For me, that's not Cynic. Cynic set up, you know, and like Cannibal, you know, if Cannibal came out with a completely different style, that's fine. Just change the name, you know. So when Paul wanted to do that, and Sean was kind of on the fence. Actually, the Seans, I guess, were more on the fence with it. But at that point, I was like, this just isn't working for me anymore, and we're either going to stick to our guns, or if you want to try something completely different, like we did with Portal, I'm fine with that, but I'm not going to call Cynic and do something different and call it Cynic. And if you want to continue to do that, then I'll go ahead and part ways. And for me, the Portal songs was us trying to do something different, and we did change the name, and we did that. And at that time, it didn't work. So I was just like, this at this point, for me personally, my daughter was born, and it was like, now it's time to let go of my dreams and start living hers, you know. And so that's where I decided to leave, and then I don't remember the deal with Malone, but he ended up going back to Tampa, and then that's when we said, okay, this is done, and Paul and Sean's wanted to go to LA and try that, and it was like, okay, then we're done, you know.
we touched on this a little bit. You ended up moving to Portland. Is this late 90s?
I was 26, so yeah, I guess like 96.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at that point, did you stop playing music?
No, so what happened was I stopped playing music. Again, I got out of the scene and whatever. I had set up a studio up in my house, in my office, and what happened was with all this history that had happened with the music industry, it had taken the passion away from me to play professionally.
Yeah.
I said, you know what, I'm not going to be able to make money, I'm not going to be able to support my family, so, and I don't want to go play cover tunes at a bar, you know what I mean, and do anything like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up Pro Tools at my house, I'm going to get some, I have my guitar synth, and so I would throw down, I would play for myself. And I would go home every night, and to just release my stress or whatever, I would throw drum tracks, put a bass line with the synth, right? You know, and I just played for years for me, not professionally. And then Sean Malone finally at one point approached me to do Gordian Knot. And I was kind of reluctant to do that, and he told me, listen, we're going to just record this album. There's not going to be touring. There's not going to be anything like that, and I'll bring you on as a session player. Yeah. And that's an interesting story because he goes, I remember asking him, I go, Sean, so you've got an album deal? He goes, yeah. I go, so you're not going in the studio? He goes, no, I'm going to buy the Pro Tools rack. I'm going to do this, and we're going to do this DIY style, I guess, like you say. Mm-hmm. And I go, okay, and you're teaching at Eugene, University of Oregon? Yes. So he was finishing up his PhD in music composition, and in order to do that, he had to teach master classes. So I go, finishing up your PhD, right? He goes, yeah. I go, teaching master classes then, right? He goes, yeah. I go, so you've got this whole plethora of these amazing musicians that are almost master's degree that you're teaching in school? Yeah. Well, why the heck do you want me to play on the album, bro? What's going on? And he actually threw me a great bone, because I'm not theory trained, or I'm an ear player, Yeah. And he threw me a really nice bone, and he goes, well, I could ask a lot of these guys to write a piece of music, and then I can flip through a theory book and point right where that concept comes from.
Right.
And he goes, but you always played just what you heard and what was appropriate for the music, and that's what I liked about your playing, and that's why I wanted you to play. And I go, okay. And he goes, so I'll pay you as a session player. It's my album, it's my deal, we're just going to release it, and you'll get paid to do it, and you get another album under your belt, which is always nice. And still I love music, and I love the people that were on the album, and being able to play. So it was kind of the perfect deal. So I was like, okay, hey, then I'll do it. And that we recorded pretty much in his teacher's dormitory, his little studio, and did that, and it was kind of a session gig, and that's how that came about. And then when that was done, that was my last professional recording, I guess, at that point. And I continued to play at home for a little while, and then from there I started to get into some of the other arts. I've always been into photography, so I ended up shooting photography and ended up opening up a photography business for a little while. And then I started doing art, which was through the photography, and just the guitar just kind of got pushed a little aside from there and further. And I'd say in the past 10 years, like I said, I have a guitar around, but I'll play it maybe just a few hours a month, just pick it up and jam and play, and then put it down.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about the Gordian Knot album a little bit. A friend of mine passed it along to me. I'd never heard of it before. I didn't know what it was. I don't know why he gave it to me, to be honest with you. He gave me a bunch of CDs. He's like, these are some things you might like. I was like, all right. Don't know if he gave it to me because he knew I was a Cynic fan. I don't even know if he knew there was a Cynic connection. Right. But on that second Gordian Knot album, okay, Sean Malone, who is the bassist of Cynic, you show up. Masvidal shows up. Doesn't Reinhardt also contribute a track or two?
Actually, the Masvidal played one solo. He was a guest solo. Yeah. He did one solo, but Sean played half the album.
Right.
So half the album was done drum-wise by Sean Reinhardt, and the other half was done by Bill Bruford from Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. And somebody from King Crimson also shows up, right?
So he was another guest soloist.
Yeah.
So the way that album was done, and the reason the title of the album was what it was Sean, it was his project, okay? And he is not a death metal guy, in any way never was. So he was more of a progressive metal and jazz player, big King Crimson fan, hence the tie with Bill Bruford and, and asking him to play on it. So Sean actually wrote the song, the skeletons, the structures, and then he gave me the music, and I would come up with the rhythm guitars for it, and it was just raw ideas. So then from there, everything was run to a click. He could give it to Reinert, he could give it to Bruford, and they could put their drums to it. And with those two guys, it's pretty easy. You can't go wrong. They pretty much played appropriately always. And so the actual recording and the music side was really him and I. And he was definitely the musical director, and I had contributed ideas to it. So I would come in, I'd work on the rhythms, and then I'd say, okay, we'd take turns. I'd go over to Eugene and go to his house, or he'd come over to my house. We both had the Pro Tools set up, and we'd record. But we would take the ideas that I have, and I would come by, and I'd go, okay, here's the rhythm that I came up with for, whatever Shaman's Whisper or any of the tunes. And he'd go, okay, because I like that, but change this accent, let's try this. And we would just literally revamp on the spot and record right there. So anything that I wrote, we still changed, and it was played literally once or twice and changed once or twice and recorded, and that was it.
Okay.
So so that's how the whole album was done. He had parts that he had specific that he wanted played on the guitar, and then there were parts that I wrote, and then we would adjust and vamp it and write all the rhythms. And then from there, most everyone else, so you had Sean Malone and I, as far as the music, the basic rhythm structure. He played the bass, and he played the Chapman stick, and that covered, most of your music. And then Masvidal, Gene Hackett, I think Portnoy was a bass player from Dream Theater. Did something there, or there was.
I know somebody from Dream Theater shows up.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't.
Myung, is there a guy?
Maybe, yeah. So I'm so bad with names, but I know there was a Dream Theater guy on there, and he had basically. So the songs had the basic structures, they had the rhythms and all that, and then he'd send it over to Gene Hackett. He'd tell him, here's your solo, boom, do your solo. Yeah. He'd send it over to Paul Masvidal, do your solo. And so he ended up calling it Emergent because we never knew what we were going to get when it came back. And the whole album just kind of emerged into what it was.
Excellent.
But yeah, so I guess the core members were really, Reinert, Bruford, myself, and Sean, and then everyone else had contributed guest solos and stuff like that on there. So it was a Malone project. That was his baby for sure.
usually when I do these podcasts, my last question is, what's next for you? And if it's a band, you know, they've got tours, they've got albums, they've got whatever. For you, I think that's a lot more loaded question when I say what's next for you. But we did talk you playing music, if for no one else but yourself, and we are in an interesting era where you no longer need a record deal to release music. You no longer need a studio to record music. You know, basically all you need is electricity and the internet, and then you can do everything yourself. Is that something that interests you?
Yeah, well, there's been some big changes in my life as of recently, and as you know, I'm sitting here with you in Malaysia, and I'm traveling around. I'm giving myself a year to travel around, and this trip didn't necessarily have anything to do with music, but my music has been coming back in this trip incredibly. Meeting people like you and other players and people that have reached out that wanted to meet. So, believe it or not, I've met a lot of really talented people, some really talented players and musicians. Like they said, they did an event for me in the Philippines. So my family in the Philippines, I say, has embraced me and taken me in, and it's really sparked my want to play again. And I am going to play again, but it won't be in a band. It definitely won't, and I don't want to limit myself in any way to a band or a style of music. And I'm actually trying to work out a whole concept now, and I don't want to let the cat completely out of the bag, but I have a few people that I'm working with that we want to create something that is going to be very artistic. It's going to have to do with a lot of music. It's also going to have to do with some other styles of art in there. It is going to embrace and embody the internet and the new technology and the ability to sell and work without a label. But as far as me musically, I really love all styles of music. I still love the edge. I still love the heavy stuff. But I do also love some other styles. I've been falling in love with a lot of the world music that I'm coming across out here. And my heart has always been around some funky, groovy, Motown-y. You know, I've always had that. If you talk to anyone that really knows me, they would say that. So I'm definitely coming back. I'll say that. I'm definitely coming back. It won't be with one band, it won't be in a style, but it will be a collaboration. I want to collaborate, I want to play with other people, I want to play all different styles of music, and that's the beauty of the technology now. You know, you can play with other people, you can release it. I think the most successful people are not on labels anymore. The new artists, are not on labels anymore. So yeah, the future does hold music for me. I'm definitely coming back, and I'm excited about it. I've got my passion back. And I'm not trying to do it to make money anymore. So there's no pressure, there's no need. And like I said, my kids are grown up, and I'm recently single, and so I don't have any financial burdens or anything like that. And I am looking forward to playing different styles and meeting other people, and I'm looking forward to, since we're on a podcast, to being open to anyone out there, that would be interested. I am selective who I play with.
You played with some of the best musicians in the world. So.
I've been very, very fortunate to play with some really good players, and it wasn't, again, none of this was planned, man. The universe is pretty crazy, and I've come across some really talented people in my very recent travels. So I am selective, but and it's not anything personal. It's integrity and wanting to put out good music and play with people that have true passion for music, that want to do something really cool. So I think, without letting the cat out of the bag, I think that's the best I could put it, is that I would be looking to do some collaborations with some great artists out there, and definitely going to come back. And in that process, I want to make it a way that I can also give back to the world, to the universe, and possibly, let's just say, without saying too much, incorporate giving to charities, and having a lot of these collaborations also have something that is giving back to the world.
Excellent.
I guess that's the best I could put it.
Yeah. Watch this space.
Watch the space, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Jason.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, and Thank you so much for your time and for the opportunity to be on your podcast.
It's my pleasure, man.